Hello, truth seekers all over the world. This is Matthew Beavers from BackToTheCovenant.com. Hope you're having an amazing day wherever you're at in the world. So this is going to be the second installment of Truth or Tradition. And the name of this video is going to be Should Believers Celebrate Halloween? So do me a favor, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you agree or disagree. Alright, let's jump into it. So I think it quite appropriate to start this video with Matthew 18:6, some of the words from our Messiah, Yeshua. Matthew 18:6. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it is better for him that a millstone be hung around his neck, and that he be drowned in the depth of the sea. These are very harsh words from our Messiah, but we need to take heed of what he's saying. So with the three big holidays that are celebrated in Christianity and around the world, Christmas, Easter, and Halloween, Hashatan, aka the devil, who does he target? He targets children with these three big holidays and celebrations. To defend celebrating Halloween, some parents or uncles or aunts that have kids and so on and so forth will say things like, well, it's innocent fun. It's just for the kids. They're just dressing up and getting candy. There's no harm in it. Is there harm in celebrating Halloween? Here's a real question. Should believers even be celebrating Halloween? Let's go to the Torah and get some instructions and see what Yahweh has to say on the matter. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 12:28 through 31. So just four verses. Verse 28. Guard and obey all these words which I command you, that it might be well with you and your children. So there you go. You and your children. After you forever, when you do what is good and right in the eyes of Yahweh, your Elohim. And let me stop right there and say, not do what's good in your own or right in your own eyes. That'll get you in trouble. Verse 29. When Yahweh your Elohim does cut off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, guard yourself that you are not ensnared or trapped to follow them after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire about their mighty ones. So you're not trying to figure out, oh, how do they serve their mighty ones? We shouldn't do that. Let me read that again. That you do not inquire about their mighty ones, saying, how did these nations serve their mighty ones? And let me do so too. Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim, for every abomination which Yahweh hates, they have done to their mighty ones, for they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their mighty ones. Now, I'm not saying any family that celebrates Halloween and lets their kids celebrate Halloween, I'm not saying they're burning their sons and daughters, because this is literal. This literally happened way back in the day. Kids were sacrificed to honor certain deities. You can see that in so many cultures, not just ancient Israel. But these kids are being taught abominable things by their parents and allowed them to do abominable things when they celebrate Halloween. Yahweh does not want his people worshiping him like the heathens and pagans worship their mighty ones. So for most of this video, I'm going to share and read from a really cool pamphlet I picked up from the first congregation I ever attended after coming to the truth. I got a lot of really cool pamphlets when I went to that congregation that I've kept for over 15 years, and they're very special to me. The name of the pamphlet is, shocker, Origins of Halloween. But before I get into the actual pamphlet, I want to discuss some arguments people will use to say it's okay to celebrate man-made traditions. So back when I used to use Google, now I use DuckDuckGo, which I would highly suggest, I typed the phrase, should Christians celebrate Halloween, into Google. And so I thought I'd find some pretty interesting articles, but what I found was a gentleman's YouTube video that had some very interesting things he was saying to try to say it's okay for Christians to celebrate, Christians and non-Christians, but his audience is Christian, so he was speaking to other Christians, that it's okay to celebrate Halloween, because we know that there are plenty of people that could care less about following what the scripture has to say, that celebrate Halloween. So in the first part of the video, he says you should avoid what he called a genetic fallacy. And I'd never heard this term before watching this video. So what in the world is a genetic fallacy? According to this gentleman, genetic fallacy is a fallacy of irrelevance that is based solely on someone's or something's history, origin, or source, rather than its current meaning or context. End quote. So basically this dude on YouTube is saying, don't worry about the origins of stuff. You just need to look at what it means currently. And then he goes on to say further, quote, in other words, it's basically saying that, hey, because this thing had a pagan origin to it, then therefore I'm going to disregard what it means in our society today. And I'm just going to eliminate it and say, you know what? This must be of the devil. Let me just say this. If you are going to do that, then there's a lot of things in our culture and in our society that you're also not going to be able to take part of, end quote. And I would counter with, is that such a bad idea? I mean, me and my wife stopped, it was about a year ago. We both realized we had an entertainment addiction, and we stopped watching movies that came out of Hollywood. Now, is that such a bad thing? No. There's a lot of sinful content we stopped watching because of that. So let me reread the first part of this gentleman's quote. Genetic fallacy is a fallacy of irrelevance that is based solely on someone's or something's history, origin, or source rather than its current meaning. Let me reread the first sentence of the second part. In other words, it's basically saying that, hey, because this thing has a pagan origin to it, then therefore I'm going to disregard what it means in our society today. So there is plenty wrong with what this YouTuber's mindset around scriptural observance and how it relates to Halloween observance. So I'm going to go to the Torah again. I believe in the whole scriptures, but you have to start with the blueprint. The first 5 books of the scriptures of the Torah is the blueprint for the rest. It's all important and applies to us today, but we have to start with the blueprint. You need a blueprint when you build a house. Leviticus 20:26. One quick verse. And you shall be set apart to me, for I, Yahweh, am set apart, and have separated you from the peoples to be mine. Yahweh calls his people to be set apart from the world. There's plenty of verses about not being like the world, not being friends with the world, and those can apply here as well. We're supposed to not operate from the same spirit that the world does. So if you go to a Halloween party and dress up and partake in the festivities, as a believer, you are no different than the world. You're not being set apart, like the verse says. So having a trunk or treat get together at your church or somebody's home is not being set apart. It's actually putting lipstick on a pig. At the end of the day, it's still a dirty pig. So I'm going to read the pamphlet. It's got some very, very good info. So again, the name of it is Origins of Halloween. And the people that made it, their website is www.thesignsofthetimes.com. Why do you celebrate Halloween? Are you Irish? Now, I would have to say I am Irish, so this does apply to me, but I choose not to follow the steps of my ancestors. Are you Irish? Were your forefathers Druids, i.e. the priestly caste among the Celts? Did you know that Halloween is the second largest commercial holiday celebrated in North America, with Americans spending more than $2.5 billion annually? Now, I've had this pamphlet for quite some time, so this number could have gone up. In the epistle or letter to the Corinthians, Paul the apostle sent to minister to the Gentiles, in the Hebrew that's goyim, which means pagans, heathens, or nations, quoted Moses saying, "But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to Elohim. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink of the cup of Yahweh and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of Yahweh's table and of the table of devils." According to the prophet Isaiah, Yahweh spoke to him, saying, "When they shall say unto you, speak unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards of that peep, and that mutter, Should not a people seek unto their Elohim for the living to the dead? Question mark. Why should you seek among the dead for the living? Should not you seek unto Yahweh and live? Moses told our forefathers, saying, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. That's Deuteronomy 30:19. In another place, speaking of wisdom, Proverbs 8:17 says, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Again in the book of Exodus, which is Exodus 33 verse 7, Moses took the tabernacle and pitched it without the camp, afar off from the camp, and called it to the tabernacle of the congregation. And it came to pass that every one that sought Yahweh went out unto the tabernacle of the congregation, which was without the camp. Halloween is a pagan festival of the dead, which has survived to the present in popular culture as Halloween. I like to call it Halloween. A night of trick-or-treating by children and others dressed in costumes of fantasy and the supernatural. What do you think Michael Jackson's Thriller video was all about? All Hallows Eve is observed the night of October 31st, followed on November 1st by the Christian feast All Hallows Day, also called All Hallowmas, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day. The ancient Celts called the festival Samhain, who was the Lord of the Dead, and observed it to celebrate the onset of winter and the beginning of the Celtic New Year. Samhain means end of summer. In Ireland, there we go, back to Ireland, the festival was known as Samhain or Lo Samhain, the feast of the sun. In Scotland, the celebration was known as Halloween. Samhain was a solar festival marked by sacred fire and fire rituals. Remember I mentioned earlier, in Deuteronomy, it talked about them sacrificing their sons and daughters. According to the law, it was forbidden of our priests to offer strange fire unto Yahweh. Exodus 30 verse 9. You shall offer no strange incense thereon, nor burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall you pour drink offering thereon. But 2 sons of our ancient high priest, namely Aaron, Moses' brother, were killed for, quote, offering strange fire before Yahweh. Leviticus chapter 10. During the height of the Druids, all fires, except those of the Druids, were extinguished on Samhain. Householders were levied a fee for the holy fire which burned at their altars. In ancient Ireland, the Druids sacrificed to the deities by burning victims in wicker work cages. There you go, burning people. According to the law, it was forbidden for our fathers, the 12 tribes of Israel, to allow the children to be sacrificed to deities. Here's another verse talking about it in the Torah, Leviticus 18:21. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim. I am Yahweh. All other fires were to be extinguished and were relit from the sacrificial fire. Samhain marked the third and final harvest, and the storage of provisions for the winter. The veil between the worlds of the living and the dead was believed to be at its thinnest point in the year, making communication between the living and the dead much easier. To the contrary, our fathers, the children of Israel, were commanded not to get involved with sorcery. Deuteronomy 18:10-12. There shall not be found among you any that make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that use divination, or observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer, somebody that calls up the dead. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh. Because of these abominations, Yahweh thy Elohim doth drive them out from before thee. On the eve of the holiday Halloween, the souls of the dead are believed to freely roam the land of the living. In addition, the devil, witches, and numerous spirits are believed to be out and at the peak of their supernatural powers. Why would you want your children in the midst of this wickedness. The Romans conquered the Celts in 43 AD, and in the course of the next 400 years incorporated their own festivals, including Fallacy, that's Feralia, which was a Roman holiday in late October honoring the dead, and a celebration to honor Pomona, the goddess of fruit and trees, represented by an apple and likely a source of the modern game of bobbing for apples. Samhain, as it is still called in some parts, is a time for getting rid of weakness, as pagans once slaughtered weak animals which were unlikely to survive the winter. A common ritual calls for writing down weaknesses on a piece of paper or parchment and tossing it into the fire. Cakes were also baked as offerings for the souls of the dead. The custom of trick-or-treating probably has several origins, but we know it's not from the scriptures. One source says an old Irish peasant practice called for going door to door to collect money, bread cake, cheese, eggs, butter, nuts, apples, etc., in preparation for the festival of Saint Comkill. Another source says the custom was the begging for soul cakes, or offerings for oneself, particularly in exchange for promises of prosperity or protection against bad luck. Here's a very important aspect. The use of jack-o'-lanterns as festival lights for Halloween is a custom that descended from the Irish, who used carved out turnips or beets as lanterns. So it wasn't always pumpkins. On Halloween, these lights represent the souls of the dead, or goblins freed from the dead. When the Irish immigrated to America, they could not find many turnips to carve into jack-o'-lanterns, but they did find an abundance of, guess what? Pumpkins. Pumpkins seem to be a suitable substitute for the turnips, and pumpkins have been an essential part of Halloween celebrations ever since. Again, as in the beginning of this article, or this pamphlet, you have to ask the question, why do you celebrate Halloween? Are you Irish? So I hope that the information in this video and from that pamphlet were a blessing to you. And if you still celebrate Halloween, just seek the Father on this. Just ask Him to help you to repent of it and just move past all the pagan customs and traditions and realize that it's not a scriptural feast or celebration or observance. It's pagan in origin, through and through, just like Christmas and Easter. So leave a comment if you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear from you. If this was a blessing, share it. And again, if you do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And like always in the videos, keep getting your scriptural shovel out and digging into the Most High's Word. Shalom.